The Atlantico received a buff in the form of what I think is the perfect commander for it. Enrique Fernandez, you can see him on the screen. His base trait increases the range of both the secondaries and main battery. He's got Flammable Cannoneer, Porcupine, Marksmanship, Master Mechanic, and this new skill called Secondary Interest, which I'm running. But I might switch to Testudo, because he's also got that. We're going to be taking a look at the Atlantico now that it has received a buff to its secondaries in the form of a commander who can spec into those weapons. The secondaries now on this ship are ranging out to 11.8 kilometers. That's the result of the fully maxed Porcupine skill, Fernandez's base trait, and of course Hipper as an inspiration. You can probably get the secondaries out further if you put on Haruna as the second inspiration, but I didn't because that spot is reserved for Kondo. Our concealment is now 12.2. With Pedro, the universal commander, I think it was 11.7, and the secondaries were 10.8 kilometers. So this is a marked improvement. This commander is free too, and he's a hybrid, as you can see, with having what is it called? The name is escaping me right now. Flammable Cannoneer and Master Mechanic. It's just like Henry J. Hyde, for example, or Azerlane Nelson. And this guy is free. If you own the Atlantico, there should be a mission in your missions tab where you can get him for free by playing the ship. And if you buy the Atlantico today, you get the mission to get this commander along with the ship. So, Atlantico has suddenly become like my favorite secondary ship in the game. Keep in mind, these secondaries are unlike any other. They are large caliber secondaries, and they do a massive amount of damage. Now, their reload time is pretty slow. I think it's a base reload of 10 seconds, but these are 234 millimeter guns, meaning they can penetrate 32 millimeters of armor, and possibly more than that, I'm not quite sure. The maximum HE damage is 3,850, and they have a 21% fire chance. So they are ridiculously effective, honestly, after this buff, and of course if you use the secondary consumable. The reason I'm showing you this game, it's not the best game in the world that you've ever seen, it's not the highest damage, and we don't come top on the leaderboard, but we do get the most secondary hits that I have so far managed to achieve. You can see we're pushing in here toward the alpha cap because that's where we've spawned, and our secondaries are already going to work. This little sequence here should give you an idea of just how potent they are. They are not harmless fireworks like you might think of some secondaries on some other ships. There's a double fire on that Bismarck, by the way, and we've scored, about 10 secondary hits so far. The fire is still continuing to tick up. That particular secondary hit right there did 3,800 damage to the Bismarck. And as our secondaries no longer can fire at him, we see our damage done total is up to 10,000. That's just the result of the secondaries and the 2 fires they lit on that Bismarck. Certainly potent. And you can imagine what they can do when they have the opportunity to just rain down on someone for a long period of time. In any case, nothing's really happening here on this flank, except the enemy destroyer is creeping up behind our destroyer, which for some reason is sitting at the edge of the cap, doing absolutely nothing. You would think he might be pushing into the cap or pushing out to try to spot for us, but no, he's sitting there torpedoing the Oyster Goat land, and of course it's not enough. The Oster takes him out, and suddenly we're without a destroyer, and all 3 of these battleships that were hanging around the island over there are now coming to try to destroy us. So we're turning our guns to get on the Oyster Goat land. Our secondaries are firing at him but missing. They're not exactly the most accurate secondaries in the world. Perhaps not the best for dealing with destroyers because of that relative inaccuracy, but if they do hit destroyers, they can do a number. We're right next to our Gneisenau buddy, by the way, which is not where we want to be. We want to get as far away from him as possible. But we've got a Colorado out here, we've got a Bismarck, and we've got another battleship inside of the Alpha Cap threatening to come through that gap between the islands. double fire, courtesy of Bismarck's secondaries. We'll put that out. And, by the way, we are running the Epic Secondary mod, which, now that we've done 30,000 damage, we've procced it once. They did change all these epic mods, by the way. I don't know if it's something I mentioned in my content thus far, but previously you had to get, like, so many ribbons for secondary hits before you could unlock this. Now it's every 30,000 damage it procs the mod, so I think that's a little bit of an improvement. It certainly makes it easier to get the reload time on these secondaries down, now that they don't need to do 50 hits or whatever. You see, we haven't even done 50 hits, or we hadn't up until this point, so we wouldn't have even procced it. And we're about to hit 60,000 damage, so we should proc it again. The Brandenburg is closing in on the Gneisenau. They're both going at each other. This gives us the opportunity to maybe turn in at this point. Ostergotland appears on the screen, so obviously we shoot at that, and we're able to take him out, so we've eliminated the destroyer threat on this flank, and thus the torpedo threat. The Brandenburg has gone down, and now maybe we can actually turn around and push into this Colorado and Bismarck. You can see 6 minutes have passed in this game, and we can tell that both teams are on even footing in terms of the number of ships, although our team still has a destroyer, which is good, because that is a huge advantage over these Reds, who no longer do. Bismarck is reversing under the withering hail of our secondaries. He's not enjoying it too much. And, well, we're just sitting here trying to see what he's going to do. It looks like Colorado might be coming around the corner as well, which I don't understand, by the way. Just little tip, if either the Colorado or the Bismarck, well, mostly the Colorado, if the Colorado is watching this game, why would you go all the way around the island when you were on the north side of the island over there, and you and the Bismarck were coming at me from different angles? It would have been much harder to angle against both of your guns if you didn't leave that position. You don't want to get close to your battleships. You want to get as far away from your battleship teammates as possible when you are playing a battleship. Why? Well, because then, if you're on a different part of the map, it becomes more difficult for the target you're shooting at to angle. But if you're both sitting in the exact same grid square, I just point my stern at that grid square, and I'm angled to both of you. Very easy. You can see, by the way, that these secondaries are kind of shredding this Bismarck. I think he's probably jealous. His secondaries, honestly, I don't think are quite as good. I think he's on fire as well, isn't he? I don't know, I can't remember. In any case, the main guns are almost reloaded. His secondaries have lit us on fire. Looks like we're switching secondary target to the Colorado, mostly because we think we're going to take out the Bismarck in one more salvo, which I think is actually kind of optimistic. He is angled. And these 15-inch guns on the Atlântico, they are honestly pretty good, especially now that they have the flammable cannoneer skill. There's the high caliber metal, by the way. Now that they have the flammable cannoneer skill, they're much more, well, okay, they're a little bit more accurate than they were previously. I've been able to get some more consistent long-range shots with good results, citadels on battleships across the map and such. Colorado goes down, courtesy of our teammates. Bismarck has no HP left, and so we take him out with the secondaries? No, with the fire set by the secondaries. Excellent. And there we go. 138,000 damage done, and 170 secondary hits. Perhaps not as many hits as you could get with some other secondary battleships, but you'll note that when these secondaries do hit, because of the large caliber of the gun's size, they do penetrate, and they do a lot of damage. The Atlântico was a ship I liked when it was released, even before it had access to this battleship commander, when it only had access to the Universal Commander Pedro Lima Santos. I think that's what his name is. He was the Universal Commander. You could get the secondaries out to 10.8 km with him, and you could get the concealment down very low, so there were good or decent reasons to use him. But now that Enrique Fernandez is in the game, this ship is really, really fun. I really enjoy it. I think it's one of my more favorite premiums to play. Obviously, we didn't get a huge score on the leaderboard in terms of XP. I don't think secondaries net you a lot of XP. But I think it was a decent game to show off the efficacy of the secondaries. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.